In this video we're going to look at the various settings that the user can change to control the way that SVG family tree generator behaves. Again, we'll load up one of our samples just to make this a little easier. Open with SVG family tree generator. The settings are on the options menu, but the first thing you'll notice is there are settings and there are advanced settings. The difference being advanced settings are generally more related to applications. Now this particular form is the core settings. It's been around for a long time. It hasn't changed that much apart from these extra fields at the bottom. So the tree title is a symbolic title, so it's not a meaningful description, and so has to follow the same rules as a key. So that's alphanumeric, underscore, hyphen, that's it. Image proportion, by default it's 0. If you plan to put images in there, then that's a proportion. It can be given as a fraction, 0.65 say, or a percentage, because it's a percentage effectively of the area in the box. Horizontal and step grid, we covered those in the getting started video. They're just alternative ways of getting to the same thing. So there are options on the options menu specifically for changing the orientation or the step grid. Generate an SVG file. People who know what SVG is will be aware that you can mix it with HTML, which is our default, or you can have a pure SVG file. If you generate an SVG, it probably means you want to embed it somewhere else, and the functionality will be more limited in terms of applications. Small font and blog are fairly explanatory. They use a smaller font for the text in the box, which might give you more room. Targeting for the blog really lays out or sizes the tree, I should say, for the reduced area available in the blog post, and that would automatically set smaller font. Some of these settings are ticked by default, so what we'll do is just load up a version of the output in the browser so we can compare the differences. So this is the version without any changes. If we go back to the tree designer, we'll go into the edit menu again, the edit form, sorry. Let's go for fanned lines. We've got rounded corners, we can see that in the browser output already, and we'll leave the opaque boxes as default, which is translucent, which is what they've always been, and we'll also include the pan zoom library. If you don't include that, then and the tree is large, then you'll get normal browser scroll bars unless scaled is ticked, in which case it gets compressed into one page. With pan zoom, it gives you much better options for navigating around and expanding or contracting, and we'll visit that in a moment. Let's just go with those for now and see what the difference is. And that's compressed it down because we've got scaled equals true, but we can expand it, and you'll see that with the fanned lines it's not very good because you can see through the boxes. So let's get rid of that and make some changes. So now we're going to take off the scaled, which means we'll get a much bigger tree, and we'll go for opaque boxes. Let's see what that does. Right, now that's full size, which is much better, and you can click and move this around, which is all part of, you see this little control in the bottom right, that's the pan zoom. So plus will zoom in, and minus will zoom out, and then reset, putting it back to the default. Now you can't see through the boxes because they're opaque, although the colour's still the same. There are facilities for advanced users to control the colours of these lines, so if you wanted to, you could colour them for different families. So we'll leave those now and go back to the tree designer. And now we're going to make use of these boxes at the bottom. Stock images are a replacement image for people you haven't got. That would typically be a head and shoulder silhouette, but we've got some predefined images. Let's pick the place. SVG code is one that a place key that's already been inserted, which references the location of all my standard images and resource files, JavaScript, CSS, etc. We'll pick that and browse for a stock image for a female box. Oh, there's one. Same for male. And we could put in ones for unknown or other, but we'll take a shortcut here. So they're immediately visible in the tree designer, and if we go to the browser, just regenerate the HTML first and then view the HTML in the browser. There they are, and they only appear if there's no thumbnail. Oops, wrong option. That's me, I've already got this form minimized. Right. It's probably worthwhile emphasizing that whether you've got thumbnail images or these stock images, you need to specify an image proportion. Otherwise there'll be no part of the box allocated to put your image or stock image into. While we're here, we'll also change the grid size. An important note here is when it's sized for the final browser, that's based on the available boxes, not the size of the grid at design time. So let's reduce this to 10 columns and 5 rows, which is a bit more manageable and coincidentally just enough to fit all of my tree into. Note as well that the tree designer always uses the fanned type of tree representation. It's only in the browser where you've got the choice between the normal horizontal vertical lines versus the fanned lines. Let's go into the advanced settings. A lot of the options in this are controlled automatically by applications. So if you pick an application from the menu, you don't have to worry about this, it's all set by default. But a few things worth mentioning are the box and margin sizes. So let's make the boxes slightly taller. So this is width and height. So we'll make it 120 pixels high. We'll put them slightly closer together. And we'll also ask for a background image. So I've got a URL already, which is just a tree branch. And we won't put these fields in because we want it to occupy the full area. But we'll make it faint. We'll ask for 50% opacity, so it's see-through. That's what that does. And the tree designer's complied with that. It doesn't show the background image. To see the background image, because that's a URL, we have to go to the browser to see it. And there it is, the tree branch. And when you pan around, it's over the top of that tree branch, so it's a static background image. And oops, didn't mean to do that. I clicked on the box instead of the pan zoom control, so that's expanding it. Again, the static image in the background doesn't move. Now let's go back and see if we've missed any advanced settings. Selecting the buttons, unless you're a programmer, is not really going to help you much. as I said before, applications, which we'll come to in a different video, will set those for you. But you might want to enforce a particular tooltip on the buttons or a particular icon. What we're going to do is to request some buttons and just see the variations. So I'll ask for buttons in all four corners of the box. For a couple of these we'll have an icon, so I'll put a plus icon in that one, and in this one is DNA one. I'll put some tooltips on there. I can't think of anything reasonable at the moment, so we'll just make something up. And these bottom ones will just have a default coloured box, and that'll be square if your boxes are square, otherwise round or elliptical depending on the size of your boxes. You don't see these in the tree designer. We'll go to the browser output. And let's zoom in and see what we've got. So we've got a plus icon there, and if we hover over it, it gives us the tooltip. Little DNA icon. We've got the tooltip. There's a number of stock icons in the website that goes with SVG Family Tree Generator, and they're documented in the program notes document. And this is the default buttons you would get, which are color coded according to the sex of the person. And we didn't put any tooltips on those. And if we click on them, there's no code behind it, no application, so it's just given a default diagnostic message. But if you select applications, then you can have all sorts of operations on these, and we'll come to that in a different video. I think we've just got time to cover two more minor issues. If you go into the advanced settings, the field up in the top corner there, instance identifier, that's only important if you've got more than one tree on the same web page. Depending on how you're using the output from SVG Family Tree Generator, then that may be important. It avoids the trees conflicting with each other in terms of event handling and identifiers. And if we go into the normal settings, there's two options there: use information panels and timeline. They're actually historical. They're now applications, and so will appear on the applications menu. But the equivalent tick box has been retained just for some compatibility, backwards compatibility. I won't go into detail with the interactive applications, but information panels is on there, and timeline reports. That's where you would now pick your applications. So you don't really need those tick boxes. They offer nothing extra above that menu. So let's wind this video up, and I'll move on to another one.